Hey everybody, today we're going to be playing Power Grid, and we're going to be playing it solo. Let me tell you, this is only my second time playing Power Grid solo, and I've never played it multiplayer, so I'm still learning the game. But what we're going to be doing today is walking through a player guide that I put together that helped me understand the rules of the game. I am late to this game, obviously. This game's been out since about 2004-ish. I picked up this game at a deal on Amazon for about $17 back at the beginning of May 2017. You couldn't pass it up, right? $17 for Power Grid? Come on. And I think Power Grid is around, it's ranked 19th, I think, on the BGG list right now. So again, you can't pass it up for $17. I think it's gone back up to probably double that now. Anyhow, so what we're going to be doing today is going through the rules and going through this player's guide. I'll post this player's guide doc that I put together, but I want to be very clear. All credit goes to Solo Play, BGG user, game rules for one. So Solo Play, BGG user, game rules for one, put together the solar variation of Power Grid, and I simply just took some steps that really helped me define the best way to walk through the rules, and hopefully it helps you out. I'll ask you to post any corrections for me so I can get the rules down properly, and I will tweak this doc in any way necessary. All right, let's get into it. So I will tell you that one of the things that I had to get my head wrapped around in this game is that there's this concept of steps. You'll see as we go through this, there's going to be 3 steps in the game. There's also the concept of phases. There's going to be 5 phases, which we'll go through in a moment. And then there's a concept of rounds. And basically, within a round, you can go through multiple phases multiple times. And then based on a certain trigger point, we will go from step 1 to step 2. And we'll talk a bit about that. And then, if I didn't mention it already, there's a total of 3 steps. So we're not going to go through the entire game today. What I like to do is at least go through, I don't know, maybe go through 2 rounds within step 1, just to kind of get the flow of the game. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do in this game is determine the play order. In the very beginning of the game, at the start of the game, the AI player is going to be the first player. And just for clarity, yellow will be the AI player and I will be the red player. This track right here represents who's in the lead. So we'll determine after each one of these phases, or at the beginning of each one of these phases, who gets to go first will be based on who is the farthest up on the left of this track. So AI player goes first in the beginning of the game. I'll also mention that this other track over here represents the number of houses that you have on the map. Right now, neither myself or the dummy player has any houses, so therefore we're both on the 0 spot. We'll change that in a moment. We're going to play the Germany map. On the back of this board is the US map. The very first time I played, the only other time I tried playing this game solo, I also used this Germany-based map, and it seems like it works pretty well. Also, as far as setup goes, unless we call it out specifically, the rules will be consistent with the multiplayer version of the game. So just like the multiplayer version of the game, I noticed there is a bit of glare up there, so bear with me on that. There's going to be a total of 8 power plants that are out, and they'll be ranging from 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way to 10. The way the market works is you have the current market, which is always the top 4 plants, and the bottom 4 plants are the future market, so you can see what's coming, but you're not allowed to purchase from the bottom portion of the market. The resources also point out, so the resources on the bottom here of the board are set up in the way as defined in the multiplayer game. So these brown cubes, somewhat counterintuitive. The brown cubes represent coal, so they're not black like coal is normally black, but the brown cubes represent coal. These black cylinders represent oil, and these yellow cubes or cylinders, whatever you want to call these things, hexagons, represent trash, or garbage. And then we have uranium. So again, this is set up as it would be normally for a multiplayer game. And let's jump in at this point. So the very first phase, what we need to do is determine the player order. We already talked about that. The AI is the first player. The second phase is to buy power plants. And if you note here, as far as player order, the highest placed on the player order track gets to go first. You'll notice in this game, or you'll find out in this game if you're not aware already, going first is not always a good thing. In fact, sometimes it's best to go second, and we'll talk about why in a moment. So buying power plants, the AI player is first, therefore the dummy player will be picking a power plant. And in the beginning of the game, actually the first couple rounds, you're going to note that the easiest way, at least my suggestion, is to just get a D4 and roll the dice. In this case, it is a 3, and therefore we're going to again pick the only from the top portion of the market. So 1, 2, 3. The AA player is going to get this power plant, and somewhat unfortunate, in fact, very unfortunate. So this power plant of 5, as far as resources, it's a hybrid plant. So we can either take 2 oils or 2 coals, or a combination of an oil and a coal. And in either scenario, though, with those 2 resources will power up one house. And I say it's unfortunate because this AI player then is going to be taking resources, and I'll be competing with this AI player for either coal or oil. All right, so we'll put this plant here. Once there's more than one plant up, we're always going to have these ordered from highest to lowest. There's only one, so we'll just leave that here. Now, the cool thing about going second in this game is that we're going to take the top plant. Take the top plant, which, by the way, this 13, it's stacked there on purpose. So all the cards in this deck are randomly shuffled. I did that before we started playing. But I will say that this deck has to be set up in a way, just like for the multiplayer game, that this 13 is placed on the top. And on the very bottom of the deck is a card that says, if I can pick this up with one hand here, 3. So once we get to step 3 of the game, this is the trigger to get to step 3. When you get to step 3, when this card flips over, you know you're getting toward the end of the game. So in this case, the 13 card came up, which I knew it would because it was at the very top. And the market always has to be ordered from lowest to highest. So we're going to reorder these now. So 3, 4, 6, 7. And we'll put 13 over here. Oops, actually, we'll do 8. Kind of tough to do this with one hand, actually. Okay, so we have this market. Now I get to decide what I want. I'm not going to put a lot of thought into the strategy at this point. I really just want to go through the steps a couple times, as we said, just to kind of walk through and kind of explain some of the rules for solo play. But just thinking through very quickly, if I bought this 6 here, it would cost me 6. And then for every trash, I could power up one house with this card. I will note one specific rule difference in the solo play is if you ever want to purchase the 4th plant, you have to pay an additional 5 electro. Electro is the currency used in Power Grid. So I'd have to pay an additional 5 if I wanted this card. I don't want this card anyway, so I'm not going to worry about it. And just for fun and giggles here, again, doesn't really matter. I'm just going to buy this 4 card, which cost me, again, 4. In this game, you're going to have a total of 50 electro to start with. I'll say I'm using poker chips, and I would highly recommend, this is probably the most important point of this entire video, the paper money that comes with this game. I would simply take the paper money and pick any one of your plants and burn it. Burn all that paper money, okay? We're going to be using chips, as I mentioned, so these are going to be 1s, these are going to be 5s, these are going to be 10s, and these will be 50s. So I just bought that plant for 4. I'm going to take one of my 10s and get myself back 6, 5, 6. Okay, and then we're going to take one of these cards and replenish it. But again, the cool thing about going second was that once the AI player took their plant, we had to replenish, and I would have been able to have another choice or more broad choice of what plant I'd want. So now we're going to, again, reorder these from lowest to highest. 3, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 13, and 26. Okay, cool. So that was phase 2, buying power plants. And we'll talk about some of these other rules in a moment. I will just quickly call out, and we'll go into this a little bit more detail in a moment. Once the AI has a total of 3 plants, then what's going to happen is we're going to follow these steps until step 2 is triggered. So in other words, this is where all the variation comes in. This game is very cool. However, there's a lot of nuances. If this, do that. If this happens, this thing gets triggered. So basically, once the AI player has a total of 3, and by the way, both the AI and the human player can never have more than 3 plants. Once the AI has 3 plants, this series of steps is going to be occurring versus the steps that are listed above. And this will keep happening until step 2 is triggered. And step 2 is going to be triggered when one player, either the human or the AI player, has 7 houses out on the map. Okay, but none of those conditions are important right now because none of them are true. So let's go on to phase 3, buy resources. So when we're buying resources, player order, the lowest placed on the player order track is going to go first. So the lowest placed is me. Therefore, I am going to go first to buy resources. At the start of the game, then the human buys resources first, otherwise follow the normal turn order rules. All right, so what I'm going to do in this case is I need coal. And if I look down here at the market, cool thing is the coal only costs 1 electro. Okay, only costs 1 right now. And the way that the game works is, in this case, for this card, I need 2 coal to power up 1 house. You're always allowed to buy an extra amount, so you can have a primary set of resources and a secondary, but you can never have more than that. So not only can I buy the 2, which I need, I can also take, while the cost is low, 2 more. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4. I want to pay a total of 4 electro to have these resources available on my card. So 4, I'm going to take my 5 chip and get 1 back. All right, so I just bought, and that's all I can buy. I can't buy any more than that. For the AI player now, same concept is true. Now the AI player does not use any cash, nor does the dummy player get any cash once the power-up phase occurs, and we'll talk about that in a moment. So in this case, the AI player could either take coal or oil, and the dummy player is always going to take the lowest cost resources. So in this case, it's going to take 2 of these. And remember, just like the human player, the AI player can do primary and secondary for resources. In fact, the AI player always will do that if it's possible. And just as a note, so we're going to take 2 for the primary set of resources, and then just take another set of coal. Now, if there wasn't enough coal or there wasn't enough oil, let's say that there was only the only thing left on the board, this is kind of a crazy scenario, but let's just say that the only thing left on the board was, after taking those first top 2, there was only 1 coal left, then the AI player would not try to take even that 1 separate. It's not going to take a half amount of necessary resources. Either takes everything that's available or nothing for the primary or the secondary. So we could take the full primary. We wouldn't take anything for the secondary. That would just stay in the market. Okay. But in this case, because there's still plenty of resources left, it's going to take the full 2 for the primary resources, and then the full for the secondary set of resources. Okay. So we just bought, and by the way, all these steps and all these little nuances are going to be identified in this player's guide. And you're going to tell me if I have anything wrong, hopefully in the comment section, because I really do want to get these rules down solid. Okay, number 4, build houses. So play order, the lowest place on the player order track, which nothing has changed, because the only time we're going to change the player order is during phase 1. So lowest place is me. It even says right here, at the start of the game, the human player is going to go first here. Okay, so at this point, there's no restrictions to where I can go. So I'm going to be the first person to take one of my houses, and I'm going to take this house and put it someplace on this map. And there's no restriction. I will tell you, and this is all defined in the player's guide, at the end of the game, you're going to have a negative penalty and if you don't have a house in every one of these colored regions. Okay, so you do want to be able to move throughout the entire map by the end of the game, or there will be a penalty. But at this point in the very beginning, there's no restriction where I'm going to go. I'm going to go, where else would you go, right? You're going to go to Essen, because Essen's cool. Now, when you look at this map, you're going to see every single one of these cities has 3 potential areas. There's a 10 area, a 15, and a 20. During step 1, which we're in right now, step 1, and it will even say this here when you build houses, the human pays 10 electro. When we get to phase 2, you could probably take a guess, it's going to be 15, and then obviously when we get to step 3, it's going to cost 20 to build a house. But right now we're in step 1, therefore we're going to be paying 10. I'm going to put this here on the 10, and then I can keep building if I want to. And just to note some other rules here, these connection costs are necessary. So if I wanted to place a house in Münster, I would have to pay 6 in addition to the 10. So it would cost me another 16 to place a house here. If I wanted to go down to Dortmund, I would pay 4 for the connection costs and then 10. And if I wanted to go to Dusseldorf, I would pay 2. And I'm probably butchering these names, by the way, so I apologize to our German friends. I would pay 2 and then the additional 10. However, it'd be kind of crazy for me not to in this case, and I'm going to put a house in Duisburg because there is no connection cost. The only thing I'm going to do is pay the cost of 10 to build the house. So I'm going to put those 2 houses. That's going to cost me a total of 20 electro. So I just paid that to the bank. All right, now it's the AI player to place houses, right? The AI player is an idiot, right? Because the AI player is going to make, I shouldn't say he's an idiot, he's a jerk, because he's going to make your life a living hell throughout this game. And so in this case, what's going to happen is the AI player will always place where the human player would normally want to place next if the human player was going to build. Let me say that another way. The AI player is always going to follow. It's going to be a parasite and follow wherever the human player is. So the dummy player would never go build someplace else. So in this case, if I ask myself, where would I want to build next if I was going to build? Where's the lowest cost place I'd want to build? Well, it wouldn't be up here because that's a cost of 6 for it to go up there. It's a cost of 4. There's only a cost of 2 for a connection and an additional 10. So the AI player will place right here because that's where I would have want to go, and now I can't because the dummy player went to there. If there was another place to connect up, that would be a low cost in addition to that 2. So if there was another 2 connection cost, the dummy player would also go there. Or if there was a place to go where there was no connection cost. So plain and simple, the dummy player is going to go where the human player would have went for the most efficient place. And in this case, there we go. And the dummy player doesn't pay any electro. All right. So we just built houses, and we'll talk about some of the nuances as we go a little bit deeper. Let me point out a step that I always forget, and it drives me crazy. I'm going to have to highlight this in yellow or something, but I try to make it pretty prominent here by bolding it. So we're going to have to replenish the market. So during this step, we are going to add 3 coal from the supply, from the common supply, back to the market. We're also going to be adding in 2 oil, 1 garbage, and 1 uranium. And I try to use this little symbolism down here that says 3 coal, 2 oil, 1 garbage, 1 uranium. And this is very important. It will become more evident as you play the game a bit more, but we're going to be replenishing the market now. Versus doing it, when you're buying resources or before you're buying resources, because obviously there'd be more resources in the market. So we're doing it at this point. So let's do it. I'm going to add in a total, I would normally be adding in a total of 3 coal, as I said right here. But if you look at the market, or I'm sorry, the supply, there is no coal left, and that's because the coal is all sitting here with me in my power plant. So, not going to be doing that. We also need to add 2 oil. So we're going to take 2 oil from the common supply there, and we're just going to basically put 1 and 2 oil back, which is cool because, that means the oil will be cheaper for, well, actually that's not too cool because I don't have any oil right now, but it is going to be cheaper for whoever's going to need it. And then also we're going to be filling 1 garbage and 1 uranium. So 1 garbage is the yellow, and we'll put the 1 garbage right here. You're always going to be replenishing the resources from the right to the left. And I said 1 uranium as well. So 1 uranium, come over here, and we will put that on the 12. Okay, sweet. So that was phase 4, build houses. We just replenished the market. And now we're going to power up the plants and collect the electro, also known as bureaucracy. So powering up the plants, the highest placed on the player order track, which still hasn't changed, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen. So the AI player is still the highest. And therefore, what is going to happen is that the AI player will power up plants, but the AI player never collects electro. So to power up the plants, all that means is we're going to take off these two. These other two are going to stay here. Even though they're there, you don't use them. Those are the backup. That's the secondary supply. So in essence, we take these two, and these two coal go back to the common supply. Notice those would have been available if the steps were different. Those two would have been there, and they would have been available to replenish back in the market. But that's why these ordering and the steps that were put together are very important to follow consistently. Otherwise, the game won't flow the way it's supposed to or intended to. Okay, now for me, I'm going to take my two primary resources up here, my two coal, put them back into the common supply, and I just powered up one of my houses. Now notice, I have two houses. Kind of sucks because I couldn't do anything to... Actually, what am I talking about? No, sorry. I'm glad I'm bringing this up. I did validate in the rules I'm not allowed to use this other set of resources. Even though I have two houses, which obviously are out here, I cannot use that card at the same time twice, even though I have secondary resources. So I only get to power one house. And because I powered one house, if I look at this handy dandy card, and this doesn't change for multiplayer or for the solo play, one house is going to get me 22 electro. Notice when you jump up to powering like 8 houses, you're going to get like 90 electro. And then up to 20 houses, sweet, 150 electro. So I'm going to power up one house and get myself a massive 22 electro. By the way, if you didn't power up any houses at all, you still get 10 electro, which is good because it keeps your engine going to be able to do stuff the next turn. So I'm going to get 22, 10, 20, and 1, 2. Okay, so at this point, this is another step I always forget. What we need to do is take the highest value plant and put it on the bottom of the deck. So the highest plant is 26. So we're going to put that at the bottom. And again, if you remember, this is the step 3 trigger. So what's going to happen is we're going to slowly take all the most powerful cards and put them at the bottom of the deck so that when you get to step 3, the bestest, the most powerful, the most efficient plants will be ready during step 3. All right, so I'm going to take a card. It's a 30. And we'll put the 30 right there. Okay, so that was basically one round. I don't know if that seems exciting. Probably doesn't feel like it the way I just went through it, but I got to tell you, this game is a lot of fun. I rank this up with 2 other games that I play solo. I play a lot of multiplayer games as well, but the 2 other solo games I do like is Viticulture and Robinson Crusoe. And I would definitely rank this in the top 3 for me right now as far as solo play. So we'll go through just one more quick set of phases and hopefully just talk about some other nuances. But I strongly encourage you to... Actually, you know what? I'm not going to go through another set. I think you get the idea. Go through these steps. Would greatly appreciate if you give me any feedback. Not so much about the video, because I know the video needs a lot of work to make it more professional. But I do think that these steps will help. I hope they will help, and I'll be looking forward to any feedback and comments that you can give me on whatever might be wrong in the solo play. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you enjoy the game. Take care, everybody. Exterminate!